Hello everyone and welcome back to Timberborn! This is episode 10 of the Haunted Hollows series. In the last episode we dove back into this world and we focused on this little pool area up here. As you can see, we've lowered some of this mountain. We now have just a few more of these dynamite pieces we still have to detonate. We haven't quite reached this last one either, since we need to build these stairs in order to access it. But we can detonate the rest of these in the meantime. And then we also placed some levees down at the end, so now we have raised the water elevation almost to the top. And we have so many trees over here. It looks like we have not chopped any of them down. We do have most of them marked to be chopped down. We need to add a few more to that list, especially these ones over here. But we also have a bunch of these lumberjack flags paused, so we need to make sure that we have enough beavers to work in those flags, because we do currently have 10 vacant jobs. And if we take a look at the workplaces tab, let's see which ones the beavers are not working in. It looks like we have most of the inventor sets are unoccupied, and then we also have some lumberjack flags that are lowest on the priority list. So we can unpause a few of these ones. It doesn't look like these lumberjack flags will actually reach over here, but if we get a few of these double platforms placed down, we can expand the range, so they should be able to help out. So we need to make sure we high prioritize these and then unpause at least one of these flags for now. We also started working on the beaver's well-being, and a few of those things include the exercise plaza and then also a couple campfires. And overall this colony is in pretty good shape. They have a good amount of food. Unfortunately, most of it is in the kohlrabis. We don't actually have any storage for fermented soybeans, and then we have a very small amount of storage for fermented cassavas and also for the mangroves, so we should probably work on that in today's episode. And we did start expanding our storage just a little bit over here. We can start by placing down a few of these overhangs. I will need to modify it so that we can have the beavers walk underneath here and get across. So we'll basically have to replace this triple platform with a double and a single above it. And you can see the beavers' well-being is going up. We're now at 21, 22. It looks like they constructed the exercise plaza and those campfires, so that's helping them out. But I did realize that we had 5 long overhangs instead of the 6 long. So we need to get a 6x1 unlocked, and that is a bit of science. Well, we were going to eventually unlock this one, so might as well get it done. And then that will also give us access to place down 2 sets of these medium warehouses, as opposed to just doing one. And with the recent update, all of this rubble here is actually disintegrating, so we have just under 12 days to make sure we can collect all this. So I'm going to bump everything up on the priority list because we do not want to lose any treated planks, and then we'll have to do the same up here as well. And clearly the beavers are enjoying being able to do something other than working. So this has been a good addition. It seems like it's fairly accessible. And since we still have some more space up here, let's take a look and see how their well-being's doing. We could improve on wet fur, and then nutrition. Seems like most of the beavers have access to a good amount of this food. We still have yet to actually start utilizing corn, eggplants, algae, and coffee. And then in terms of aesthetics, it seems like we are not fully utilizing all that as well. And then we have very minimal fun stuff for them to do. So we could always add a second exercise plaza, and then adding the scratchers, that's not too difficult. And for the detailer, we have to utilize extract. We do have some, but we don't have a whole lot at the moment. We might hold off on that for now. But I think we could also get some swimming pools placed down. Specifically, right in here would be a good spot to get some. And that is only 250 science. That is not that big of an investment. We'll just need to place some platforms down. That way we can actually place the swimming pool. And if we open up this area just a little bit, then we can fit a swimming pool here, no problem. We might be able to fit a second one over here if we expand this area also. We can start with one, and then I think we'll need to remove maybe a few pieces of kohlrabi if we want to go around the side. Because ideally we want to have probably 3 or 4 of these swimming pools. And the beavers are walking all the way over here for water. We might want to add another water storage a little bit closer to the main facilities, because right now their housing is pretty close to all of these because they can use the tube stations, but they have to basically walk over here to get their water. So that's not quite as efficient as it could be. We can also take advantage of the fact that we have a bunch of space right above these buildings. We'll need to get some overhangs and maybe some platforms set up. This one is a whopping 2,000 science. It takes 90 metal blocks, and we do have some. It looks like we're actually maxed out at the moment, so we need to get some more storage set up for that as well. So we will need to remove this set of stairs, and it's not going to be pretty for the beavers. They're not going to like it, but we need to do that so we can remove this platform underneath, and then we can start adding in the platforms in order to give them access to some of those buildings below. And then if we cover up most of this with platforms, Just need to place down one more double platform. And now we have a bunch of space where we can add in even more storage. I'm going to want to focus on these large industrial piles, since we need to add probably at least a couple for the metal blocks. And then at some point, hopefully we can get dirt unlocked. But we'll probably need to focus on bots before then, since the dirt excavator is a pretty dangerous job. And the drought has started. It is 6 days long. We are wrapping up cycle 11. I think we're going to be in a good spot. We just need to make sure we can pause all these water pumps, and then we can utilize the new copy settings tool and apply it to all of these ones. And what better time to add a swimming pool than during a drought? So we'll have access to that right here. And then like I mentioned, if we remove this one block, and then it looks like it should give us enough room. Oh wait, we don't actually need to add this here. In fact, if we just add a few platforms going across, then we can just rotate it and then add a few more right here. And then we can continue adding platforms and then add in a third swimming pool. And it looks like the beavers are very committed to getting access to water. And since we're basically maxed out on kohlrabi, it doesn't matter if we remove a few of these, since we clearly have a lot of kohlrabi that is grown up, but we have yet to pick them. The beavers' well-being is continuing to rise, so it seems like more and more of them are getting access to some of this, and then also these new swimming pools, or at least one of them is helping out. And very briefly, we only had 2 free beds, but it looks like we had 4 beavers die in the night, unfortunately. We do have 12 children at the moment, and there's going to be more coming down soon. So we need to think about what we want to do for housing. I think what I want to focus on is getting some of these double platforms placed down right behind here, and then actually removing both of these. We'll start with one for now, that way we can actually build these, and we'll make sure we high prioritize them, and then we'll add in one of the larger lodges, since each one of those large ones will add in 6 additional beavers. And I do realize that they could have built the platforms, and they did build the platforms for underneath, but now they're getting this one constructed very quickly, and we can actually destroy this one as well, and then replace it with another large barracks. Oh, and I forgot to connect these paths in, but we can do that really quickly. And now this is going to be excellent because it gives both wet fur and then also access to the swimming pool. And at this point we can start thinking about getting some of those platforms and overhangs placed on top of these buildings, because we want to get the water access a bit closer for them. So if we make it look something like this, then that should actually be pretty effective. We could always make it bigger, but I think this is a reasonable size right now. We are running pretty short on planks at the moment. We do have some of these jobs that are paused, and we have an unemployed beaver. So that actually works out perfectly where we can unpause both of these, help get our plank stores up a little bit. We have 750 logs, so we're up quite a bit from the beginning, where I think we had under 100 logs. So that is going to be very helpful. Looks like we're actually running a bit short on power, but we also paused some of these since we were utilizing the bad water that was flowing through here. And since they changed the recipe for steam engines to now be logs and water, we can unpause both of these, and that should take care of our power issue. And so not only are we short on materials for a bunch of these buildings, but we might not actually be able to reach all of it. So we'll see how far they can get, and if they can't reach everything, then I think we'll probably place in a tube station somewhere along the top, and then basically allow them to exit the tube station and then walk across the platforms to reach the other ones. We can always throw them into the farmhouse, and then I think we also had another lumberjack flag we can unpause. And then speaking of water access, it's been a little bit tedious, you could say, having to pause and unpause these during the droughts and the bad tides, because if we suck it all up, then we start losing access to irrigation for some of the trees and then some of these crops, which is not ideal. So I probably want to get a reservoir set up. I don't know exactly where the best spot for that would be, but we do have a change in elevation for water right here, and so I do have an idea. I don't know if it's the most efficient one, but it might be one that actually looks pretty cool, and I'm taking a little bit of inspiration from our platforms right here. If we basically did overhangs over all of our crops, we might need to remove a few showers, but we could make basically a large grid over here, and then have the water flow at the same elevation across to this, and then we have some sort of outfall maybe on the downstream side where the water could exit, but we'd have at least 2 tiles of storage, and we might even be able to take advantage of the deep mechanical fluid pump and then try and pump water from here up into a higher elevation reservoir, which this would be quite the feat for the beavers to achieve, since we are we are just completely out of planks at the moment, so we won't be able to do that quite yet. We'll need to get our plank situation sorted out first, and then we'll probably also need to work on getting all these constructed as well. Once we have that done, I think it actually would be pretty cool to start working on this. So I'm going to put a pin in that for now, and then we'll focus on some of these other projects, but maybe by the end of the episode we can start working on that. And then looking around the colonies, I see a bunch of builders' huts. I don't actually know how many hauling posts we have. I can see we have 5 builders' huts, and then I don't see any hauling posts at the moment. I think we have one. Okay, so we have one, it's normal priority, but I think we should probably add some more because we really want to make sure we can utilize the haulers and then get the logs to these lumber mills. But then we also have other buildings that we need, like the engines, those require haulers. So I think we might need more than just one hauling post. Plus we actually have some unemployed beavers now. So we can super high prioritize this hauling post. Once they get that constructed, it shouldn't take them too long. It'll just take a few of these planks that we have. So they might need to wait just a little bit. But once they finish that, they should be able to make things run more efficient around the colony. And the drought is also over. We're starting cycle 12. We have 2.7 thousand water, so we're still in a good spot. But we are going to be unpausing some of these water pumps. That means that we're not going to have quite as many beavers who can help out. But on the bright side, we can pull from the inventors' huts, and that job is not really important since we do have a number cruncher up here. And it does look like we ran out of bad water during that drought. It was 6 days long, and I think that about halfway through we were running a little bit low. So we'll need to add in some more deep bad water pumpers as well, and then probably increase our storage beyond 300. If we do a little bit of rearranging over here, specifically lowering this whole section, then that should make it easier to get some more storage and more pumpers over here. Another small investment we can make that should have some good returns is adding in a couple more of these campfires, and then we should probably also get some decorations added as well. So it looks like we are running just a little bit short on planks still. We can construct this one, but we can't actually reach the rest of these, which means, well, I guess we can reach some of them, but at least these two in the middle they can't reach, so we'll need to add in a tube station, and we'll want to make it in a good spot where it makes sense that we can access the rest of this, and then also fit in some buildings around it. So we can add in a large tank up here, and then we'll be able to make that no problem. We also have this tube station. We can leave this large tank as normal priority, and then maybe bump this up a little bit higher. Hopefully having all these industrial lumber mills prioritized by haulers should help our plank situation a little bit. We're pretty much burning through every plank that we make. We're still doing good on wood, but we'll need to keep an eye on that because if that drops too much, then we'll definitely have even more of a plank issue. We have the last round of dynamite that we can detonate, and so we can continue to expand our bad water production. We will also need to beef up our bad water storage. We have this single medium tank, but what I'm going to want to do is replace this builder's hut with a larger tank. Unfortunately, it takes 80 planks for the large tank, so I think we're going to stick with this one for now. And then once we've gotten out of our plank shortage, then we can replace this right here, and then get that large tank placed down. And we can also take advantage of the fact that we have these water wheels up and running, so we can pause at least a couple of these engines, and then we still have excess power, which is excellent news. It looks like we've chopped down most of the trees over here. We still have a few on this backside that the beavers are working their way through. Same with these ones down here. So we're in a good spot with trees for now. We're dropping a bit, but we are heavily investing in getting some planks produced. And then taking a look at the rest of the trees, let's see if there's any waves of trees that are going to be growing up soon. We have 92%. Some of these were chopped down recently, so those are doing fine. I think that we should replace some of these birch trees with some oak because they're much more efficient and we no longer have to worry about bad water going through here. That was basically the whole point of putting birch down, was because we didn't want to invest in some of these more time expensive trees if they're going to die off. So we can unmark the rest of these birch to be planted, and then we can do the same for some of these pine trees, because pine trees are great for pine resin, but once again not as efficient as the oak trees for producing wood. And I just unpaused the rest of these water pumpers. I only unpaused 6 at first, but we were still going down in water, and we do not want to have a repeat of one of the live stream episodes that happened. We are getting very close to finishing all these overhangs. Our wood is still going down and planks are still basically hovering around 0, but at least we're still making good progress. And our metal block reserves are also going down a bit. We only have 40. We started out maxed out. We have enough scrap metal to feed them at the moment, but we probably want to turn on this other smelter. This one has been kind of inconsistent because it is powered exclusively by bad water flowing through here, but since it's a wet season we can utilize it for now. And it looks like we've actually maxed out our storage immediately. So we don't really need these 2 additional bad water pumpers at the moment. And then it seems we do have a few of the beavers in the builder's huts who are sitting around. We don't actually have a whole lot more to construct. I added a few decorations up top, which should help their well-being a little bit. And then the last big thing is getting this large tank constructed. We are still short on planks, but I think after this is constructed, we can actually start building up some storage for the planks. Now our food situation is actually not looking great. We have basically not gone up in food at all. Most of it is still kohlrabi. And I actually haven't checked in on our fermenters. I'm not even sure how many fermenters we even have. Looks like we have 2 oil presses for some reason. We don't really need 2 since we're maxed out and we have 0 storage for canola oil. So this guy's productivity is only 22%. I suspect it's because he has to walk all the way across the map in order to get the materials he needs. We do have soybeans over here, but they're probably just sitting around in this farmhouse. So we need to make some changes. I just prioritized it by hollers. We can also add in a small warehouse, have it set to raw soybeans, prioritize that by hollers, and then also set it to obtain. And then somewhere underneath this entire section of overhangs, I think we have another fermenter. We have this one set to fermented cassavas, and it looks like we have a good amount of raw cassavas, but we're going through them fairly quickly, so we might need to add in another fermenter. So we can add in 2 more up here, make sure we add those paths in, and then do something similar for the cassavas. Make sure we have raw storage over here, prioritize it by hollers, and set to obtain. Oh, and it looks like we have another one over here. This is fermented mushrooms. We're already prioritizing that by hollers, and the productivity is still really low. We have maxed out on mushrooms inside. Do we have storage? Looks like we can store 400, so that shouldn't be a problem. And then we also have some fermented mushroom storage over here, which is relatively close by. And we now have some planks. We're up to 55, which is more than 0, so that's a win. And since we do have this set of overhangs, we'll have to be pretty strategic in how we want to place down the other overhangs that are a bit lower in elevation in order to have the water flow over and then into this mini reservoir that we're going to make. And so I'm going to start the process of laying down some of these platforms and overhangs. So we have the foundation of this laid now, and it's going to take quite a bit of planks and metal blocks and logs to get all this constructed, but we're going to continue to expand over here. Unfortunately, I think I am going to need to change the paths up a little bit, since you can see there is a small gap right here. If we shift this over by 1, then that should solve the issue, but that is something we can work on in the next episode. Until then, if you want much more Timberborn content, you can check out some of the live streams that I've recorded. Those are on my channel under the live section. You can check them out there if you haven't been able to watch them live. And if you are interested in watching them live, I typically stream on Saturdays. So if you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and hit that like button. It really does mean a lot to me. And with that, we will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.